Hey everyone, welcome to week 42. This is day 5. This is Friday, our last day in our unfamiliar week. So we've tried to paint things that were once familiar to us, things that we were used to painting, things that we thought we already knew how to paint. We're trying to paint those things in new ways, in unfamiliar ways. So we painted Danny, we painted my foreshortened hand, we painted the alcohol spritzer bottle. And yesterday we painted a rotting banana. So we'll see how we finish off this week. Remember, next week, new theme. I'm gonna paint with, this is a spoiler, but I'm gonna paint with some of Danny's paints. Some of these high chroma gouache paints. So I think that's gonna be cool. But that's next week. New theme. Bye. Okay, let's get started. This is day 5. This is Friday. This is our final day in our unfamiliar week. And just as a small recap of what we've done during the week, on Monday and Tuesday, because I think we can understand both Monday and Tuesday as pretty much the same exercise, what we did was turn the form, turn it in space, or make it travel through space in a way that it became unfamiliar to us. And when trying to paint that unconventional way of representing that form, we realized that we have to fall back upon the very basics of painting to try and find a way out of that new problem. It may be an old subject matter. It may be a subject matter that we thought we were familiar with. Just by doing something very simple, which is turning it in space, we realized that we end up learning so much about its wholeness that we realize that what we knew was only a tiny little facet. We were only capable of seeing this very small side to this object. On Wednesday, we realized that maybe form can remain the same. Maybe form could be presented to us in a somewhat static manner, and what changes is lighting. We spoke about how the light that we're most used to is light that comes up from above. It can be a skylight, it can be a window, or it could obviously be the sun. That's the source of light that we recognize the most, and that is the lighting condition that we associate with the manner in which form is presented to us in nature. So anything that kind of strays away from that, we as human beings consider it weird and strange, and it becomes unconventional and unorthodox. So this backlighting that was seeping through this bottle on Wednesday was just a perfect example of how light can really have an effect on mood. And yesterday we spoke about something that is perhaps very obvious when we paint. It is a variable that accompanies the very act of painting. It is a variable that affects the subject of our painting. And in the end, it's a variable that affects the very nature of all things, which is time. And I guess the way we challenged this preconceived idea that we have of time was by hopefully acknowledging that even though it may be imperceptible to us, time does have an effect on a painting. Time slowly but surely decays a painting, because a painting is no different than any other thing on this planet. We sometimes mistakenly, I feel, associate a painting with timelessness. We associate painting as this static, almost eternal object. And yesterday, we wanted to tackle that problem head on. And through our subject matter, through our rotting subject matter, this banana is almost like an acceptance of the inevitable. Time has gotten the best of that banana, and that's what we're acknowledging. By depicting our subject matter as being affected by time, we're also, in a way, speaking about the effect that time will have eventually on painting. And I was saying yesterday how eventually is the key word here, because we human beings, if the idea is larger than something we can rationalize, then we just don't want to deal with it. So if, for example, I say that painting is going to last 50 years, we feel betrayed by it. We feel, no, this painting is not doing its job. That painting should exist for longer than 50 years. And if we were considering buying a painting, we would almost feel robbed. But if I told somebody, well, that painting is going to live for 3,000 years, people go like, oh, fine. I'm not okay with less than 50, but I'm totally fine with 3,000. 3,000 years is an idea that doesn't even compute for us. So even though we kind of acknowledge that things are not going to last forever, we don't want to deal with that fact. And we don't want to think about that with things that we believe to be permanent, that we believe should be permanent. And I guess painting, for some reason, has fallen onto that category. So yesterday, we kind of stepped out of the painting and contemplated and reflected upon that idea. And we did it through a beautiful rotten banana. And honestly, I had a blast painting it. I thought it was gorgeous. I've painted bananas before. I don't know why I hadn't painted a rotting one. I think this is the best banana I've painted. It probably speaks about how I had a connection with the essence of time that was being displayed by this banana. And today is our last day, and I thought we would do something different because the idea of doing these themed weeks is not to always have, a set definition that we're going to follow throughout the week. Because in essence, that would mean that every single painting would be the same painting. I mean, I could paint different subject matters, but in the end, it would be the same painting. The drive behind the paintings, the 5 paintings of the week would be exactly the same. And what I try to do, I try to do it for you guys, but I obviously try to do it for myself too, just to keep my brain turning and just to find possibilities while I paint. I always try to find ways of redefining a problem because in art and specifically in painting, we're always solving a problem. Always. That's all we're doing while we're painting. We're solving things. And there is no one way to solve problems. And the beautiful thing in art is that there's never one way of solving a problem. There's a myriad of ways. Exploring the range of possibilities that we have at our disposal when trying to solve a painting is one of the most wondrous things in art. That is what keeps us going. That is what gives us energy. So I'd like to believe that part of our drive with this project is just finding those possibilities. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, but it's very exciting just to give yourself the opportunity to find new ways to solve old problems. So for today, when speaking about unfamiliar, there was something very unfamiliar about this setup. And when I saw it, I was smiling, but deep down, I'm like, okay, this is a tragedy waiting to happen. So I usually do the dishes. Danny usually cooks and I do the dishes. That's the dynamics that we've already established for our relationship. And we're fine with that. Doesn't mean that I can't cook and that she can't do the dishes. Sometimes we do that too. But in our day-to-day, we usually have accepted those roles. When I do the dishes, I do them like a regular human being. That poses no threat to any other person that is inhabiting our apartment. When I am doing the dishes, I am conscious that there is a social responsibility to doing the dishes. Now, when Danny does the dishes, you can throw all of that out the window. She doesn't care about the well-being of any life form, apparently, because this example may not be as threatening as the underlying potential of her absolute neglect for social norms, for rules that we have accepted as society. That fork, that life-threatening fork that is just sticking out, tells me one thing and one thing only. It tells me that I didn't do the dishes. Because if I had done the dishes, that fork wouldn't be sticking its head out. No, it would actually be placed in the correct position. So it's only a matter of time where it's not going to be a fork that's sticking its head out. It's going to be a knife trap. It's going to be 6 knives just sticking their heads out, just waiting to stab somebody. It's just a tragedy waiting to happen. It just is. This fork reminds me that the order that I choose to follow, because, again, I choose to abide by the laws that were established by normal people, where we try to protect each other. We as a society, we don't want to harm each other. We understand that we have to behave in certain ways. We have responsibilities, and I've chosen to live my life, this way. But this slightly chaotic act that is in display in this rack while the dishes are drying is just a disrespect to human decency. So whenever I wash the dishes, I tell myself, I'm doing this so people don't die. The way we understood unfamiliar today was just by recognizing a moment in our everyday lives where, things are supposed to look a certain way. If things don't echo the social contracts that we regular people have chosen to follow and abide by, then we get tiny little examples, little seeds of chaos that can become horrible tragedies. And speaking about chaos, because let's bring this back to painting. While I was painting this still life, I was reminded of something that I would love to evidence more in my painting. I would love the ability to understand the bigness of things a lot more. So this sounds a little abstract, but a perfect example of this is the painting of the Colossus by Goya, where the whole town, the bottom part of that painting is just as masterful as you can paint. And the painting part of it is not really what makes it masterful. It's the understanding of what makes a multitude feel like a multitude. And it's not just about painting these little people, it's also painting them charged with energy. The multitude behaves in a way where it almost feels like sentient. It almost feels like there's oneness to that multitude. Even though we can see the cattle going crazy and all the townspeople going crazy, animals are going one way, the people are going another way. Again, absolute chaos. And by the way, I love that if you look closely, the donkey, it's staying still. Donkey is like, oh, a huge colossus is covering the sky? I don't care. Try carrying hundreds of kilos every single day of your life and see if you feel surprised when you see a colossus one day. So props to the burro, props to the donkey, because he rocks. But this painting, along with other Goya paintings, displays this ability that he had to understand how a crowd would behave. But there was wholeness to a crowd. There was oneness to a crowd. And we've talked about this, but without these efforts of Goya, there would be no Ramon Casas. There would simply not be Ramon Casas. And one of the most amazing aspects of Ramon Casas' paintings, again, would be the ability to portray the people. The people understood as one. It feels like a crowd that has one beating heart. It's full of individualities, but it behaves as one. Even as I'm describing this, I realize this is not easy. This is not easy to even put into words. This is not easy to rationalize. Like, to try and depict that through painting has to be one of the most complex things ever. And that's why there's so few people that are actually amazing at it, like Goya and Ramon Casas. Again, that's why I believe that the Spanish history of painting is actually the best history of painting, but that's just me. I know it is the most exciting and connected of all the histories of painting. But anyways, that was a side note. Back to the painting, I realized that I want some of that. Like, I've always yearned for some of that in my own painting. And I go back to Olga Woznanska, one of my very favorite painters ever. And her still lifes, they are so drenched in atmosphere. They have this air, this very heavy air that envelops everything. And I kind of want that. Whenever I see those paintings, whenever I see this idea of bigness and oneness present in a painting, I'm like, yes, that is what I want. And I tried to do that today. If I wanted to understand that little fork that is perfectly catching that light as a seed of a potential tragedy, then my painting has to be imbued with chaos. It can't be this thing that has this one element that we're going to say, oh, the light in that fork is beautiful. No, it actually has to feel brooding. There is a sense of underlying menace, within this painting. And again, that's all thanks to Danny. Anyways, I will keep saving the world by placing forks and, more importantly, knives in the proper position when I'm washing and drying the dishes. So at least you guys can rely upon me and not the sociopath. Anyways, that was it for this week. That was it for today. Like I said yesterday, it is a painting that was born from a dumb little story. And I would venture to say that more serious painters would think, no, this would be stupid to paint. This would be stupid to talk about. Not us. We have fun with all of this. It's Friday. It's good if we have a laugh. And it's kind of cool that we can understand that we can do a really serious exercise and still have fun with it and just chuckle a bit. So that was it for this week. Next week, we're going to have a new theme. We're going to keep working We're going to keep working throughout this year. So we're going to have a new theme where I'm going to tackle something that is my bane. I have kind of indirectly done it throughout other weeks and other themes. And we're going to focus in on chroma, on saturation. And this is the painful part, and I know I'm going to suffer for it, and I know I'm going to regret just saying it, but I'm going to paint with gouache. I'm going to use a gouache set that Danny uses. She's amazing at gouache, by the way. She kicks my ass when painting gouache. She's amazing at it. I suck. I don't get it. I really don't. And I know I'm going to have a hard time. I know I'm going to learn, but in many ways, I'm like, I don't want to do this. I just don't want to go through it. I feel so nice, so comfortable with my oil paints. I don't want to do gouache. I feel stupid when I paint with gouache. But that's the point. I'm going to suffer through it, and I'm going to tackle saturation. So we'll see how that goes. So hopefully we'll see you guys next week. As we say on Fridays, it is our pleasure to be your company. And if you guys let us, we will gladly be your company for next week. We think that this project has gone on directions that we didn't anticipate. We thought it was going to be videos that people could just extract, hopefully good information from. And if, one person found them useful, then we would be like, yeah, awesome. We did our job. But this is very slowly becoming like a tiny community. And we love that. And we love that you guys get to know us through our project. And we love that we get to know some of you guys through interactions here in our videos or in my Instagram feed. It's kind of cool that there is a sense of community to this that we didn't quite anticipate. So we're very happy about that. We'll see you guys next week. You can comment below if you are Team Danny or if you are a sane person like I am. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.